Okay, so, Mr. President, Cabinet Secretaries, members of Congress, my fellow food fighters, every one of you in this room, thank you. Yeah, you can clap, but everyone, yourselves included. You came from far away, people, to be here today. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little bit nervous here. I think every one of you feels the weight of this moment. I feel the weight of this moment, but we are all together. And this way we can carry it together. So really thank you for inviting me here to speak about the most important source of energy in this country. The food we eat, and you know it. Oh yeah. So let's be honest. If we were talking about a different kind of energy, like oil and gas, it would maybe not take half a century to host a conference like this one today. It would not take an army of food activists like you and many others across America or a Spanish-American chef to say, food is a national security priority. Yeah, you can clap on that one. But guys, thanks to the leadership of President Biden, we are now coming together for this historic moment. It also took many champions in Congress from both chambers and both parties in a bipartisan way, especially the support and the commitment of the House Hunger Caucus led by my friend Jean McGovern. Love you, we love you, and we'll always love you more. I'll always cooking for you, anytime you tell me. And the late and dearly Miss Jackie Warlowski, and many others, like Senator Cory Booker and Mike Brown. They all deserve our great thanks and gratitude. So, thank you to all for prioritizing the food health of our nation. Many of you have traveled great distances to be here today. And I arrived last night from Puerto Rico, where 5 years after Hurricane Maria, the climate crisis, once again left American citizens powerless, without food, water, and where already war has began to heal people and rebuild the communities using something is very important to all of you, to all of us today, the power of food. I stand here today in the shadow of a fellow immigrant, like Jean Meyer, who chaired the 1969 conference. I was born in 1969. I came to Washington, D.C. in 1993. But in 1969 is the same year we put a human in the moon, when millions of American children were going to bed hungry. 53 years later, after all our progress in science and technology, after all we have done to produce better food in cheaper and smart ways, we are still struggling with an epidemic of diet-related disease. And children are still going to bed hungry. As we saw in the worst days of the pandemic, and I know almost every one of you was active during the pandemic, and I thank you for it. Decades of economic and racial injustice, poor diets, and even unfair policies have left our communities weak and a little bit vulnerable. And hunger and food-related sickness are the invisible enemies of our lifetime. They are moral challenges to each and every one of us. You cannot see the aching feeling in people's hungry stomachs. You can't. if you never felt hunger, you really don't know what it means to be hungry. Or the loss of dignity. Yeah, you can clap on that one, because this shouldn't be happening. You can sense it, but you cannot understand it. Or the loss of dignity and productivity that comes from waiting in line for hours for a box of food that you don't even know what is inside. You cannot see the body's constant struggles with diet-related disease, or how poorly fed school children face challenges learning in the classroom when they can barely concentrate with an empty stomach. But you know, and that's why you are here, that all of you, all of us, we can do something about it. And I know that sounds simple, but I do believe that complex problems have actually very simple solutions. You know a little bit about World Central Kitchen, this nonprofit that does simple things at times at the scale. Instead of watching people go hungry, we cook. We cook 100 meals the first day. Then we double it, and we double it again. Before you know, we are serving millions of meals, maybe in a war zone like Ukraine, or as we speak, in many countries and islands in the Caribbean, including right now in Florida. You know, instead of waiting for outside help, you know what we do? We activate local people to help their own communities, because locals know best. Instead of meeting and planning, we take action. And that's, my friends, not so different from what every one of us must do to join President Biden's bold effort and announcement. Starting today, simple. We have to take action. We can change the way our food system works and the way we see it in this country, starting today. With the first urgency of now, we need to diversify our food to survive the climate crisis and the next pandemic. This is a national security issue itself. Don't put all the eggs in one basket. Diversify. And we need to adapt our food to thrive in a highly competitive global economy. We need to stop giving people breadcrumbs and start building bakeries. That's a powerful metaphor and a real. And you know, food is not just a problem. Food must be, can be, and should be the solution. The solution to many of the complex problems we face. Like many of you, like all of you, I've seen the power of food to change lives. And some of the worst disasters you can imagine on this planet. Sometimes in the worst moments of humanity, the best of every human shows up. You know, I've seen how food is the fastest way to rebuild our sense of community. No I, the person, but we, the people. We can put people back to work preparing food, as we can put life back together by fighting hunger. You don't see Republicans and... yeah, I like that, yeah. I needed a break. You know, you don't see, and President Biden has spoken about that continuously. It takes all of us. You don't see Republicans and Democrats after a hurricane, people. You only see neighbors helping neighbors. You don't see rural and urban voters at a farmer's market. You see a community celebrating the bounty of the earth. You don't see immigrants and natural-born citizens working in a restaurant. You see a team working together, moving a business forward. We can unite our country right now when we need it the most. I do believe through the power of food. Because, my friends, a meal is so much more than a plate of calories. It's a plate of hope for the hopeless. It's a voice for the voiceless. That's what a plate of food is. When I first arrived in Washington as a young immigrant, looking for a place to belong, I began volunteering in one of the places you know is very close to my heart, DC Central Kitchen. Whose founder, who is here with us today, told me when I barely was 26 that charity too often seems is about the redemption of the giver, when it must be about the liberation of the receiver. That goes for you, Robert. In the process of ending food waste, people were brought off. We brought off the street to learn job skills, to become a cook, to start preparing meals, to start serving in the shelters around DC and in schools across the city. Thousands of meals every day, non-stop for 35 years. This is Central Kitchen put at the heart of solving many problems at once, a humble plate of food. Use $1 not only to solve the problem and feed the people in need, but training people, creating jobs, buying from local farmers. And then restaurants like me hiring the people that came trained, $1 multiplied by 4 or 5 times. You know, you can be solving many problems at once if you stop throwing money at the problem and you start investing in solutions. This same holistic approach we must adopt at the federal level in order to stop treating food as sometimes what it seems is an afterthought, at the start harnessing its true potential. Almost 200 years ago, people, the great food writer, a Frenchman, and I don't mention French people in the openly, it's a lot of competition with French chefs and Spanish chefs. You know I love them, but you know what I mean. So this had to be good for me to mention Briat Severan. This man said, tell me what you eat and I'll tell you who you are. But he said a phrase that should be high up in the walls of Congress. He said, the future of the nations will depend in how they feed themselves. He was a visionary. Our future as a nation depends in how we feed ourselves today and tomorrow. That's why today, I want to be bold. I'm a creative chef. We are all creative people. So I'm really proposing maybe a radical overhaul of the way we protect our food supply and improve our food health. Just look at the miles of lines outside food banks during the worst of the pandemic, as farmers were throwing away perfectly good food and hundreds of thousands of local restaurants were shutting down. Our patchwork approach is failing us all. Just 1 year after the last White House Food Conference in 1970, the Government Accountability Office began its call for reform. 5 years ago, it said we need a national food safety strategy, because oversight is spread across no less than 16 federal agencies, people. 16. Just last year, it identified 200 efforts across 21 agencies to address diet-related needs. If this was in the private sector, we will be shut down by then. It said Congress needed to add now to create a national strategy on nutrition. So, my friends, thanks to President Biden, we now have a national strategy, as you know, released yesterday. President Biden, Secretary Vilsack, and I, we all agree that we need to evolve the current role of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Imagine what kind of health impact we can have with an agency that incentivizes healthier SNAP purchases, making fruits and vegetables available and affordable for all Americans, as outlined in the new national strategy. Yeah, you can clap on that one, because we need to keep coming up. So yes, we need, I believe, a new food agency that will bring many of these things together. We must all, though, act on the President's national strategy to pursue a whole-of-government transformation on our food system. I do personally believe that we should go further to really create this new federal agency with the mission of ensuring the safety of our food supply, but more important, ensuring that all Americans will have access to fresh, healthy, and nourishing food in the good times and especially in the emergencies and in the very difficult times like the ones we've been going on during the last 3 years. Yeah, you can clap on that one. Because let me tell you, people, the new National Food Agency idea will center food policy on the urgent needs of our citizens. Its priority will be to advocate for the food needs of the people, not only of the companies. Yeah, that's a good one. People, it's not time to be shy. The new agency will bring together the nutritional programs of the USDA as well as the food safety focus of the FDA. And it will serve as the lead for food and water in partnership with FEMA in difficult times and the USAID in response to domestic and international crises. And the new agency, I'm dreaming, must be bold, strategic, and go further to target with precision the areas of greatest food needs in the most impactful ways. And I want very quickly to highlight 3 areas where food can help revitalize and reunite our country. First, food can drive economic growth. Yes, creating jobs and successful business at the same time. Not just better health, which is important, and making it happen in rural and urban America. We need to create food improvement districts to increase access to healthy food through private sector incentive and rule changes for nutrition programs. In these food improvement districts, SNAP rules should be maybe changed and play with to allow spending on maybe coffee shops, cafeterias, community organizations, so people can feed themselves right in the same communities they live. So that our investments in nutrition security also become investments in the local economies, especially with minority business owners. And we should develop grant programs to open grocery stores in every one of these food improvement districts. No more food deserts in the history of America. Why not? We can make it happen. No more food swamps. And also we should invest in programs to encourage corner stores, bodegas, to offer something so revolutionary as fresh produce and vegetables. Second, our public schools at the heart of our communities in red and blue states across rural and urban areas. It's time we saw the potential beyond the battle work of educating our children. Because, my friends, you know what the schools are, right? Schools can improve the food health of our entire country. Because they are the Trojan horse in every community. They are a Trojan horse of goodness. They can educate and feed at the same time. To do that, we need to invest in our nation's school kitchens so that every school can prepare nutritious and tasty meals. Or universal free breakfast and lunch for all children. Everybody seems to agree, President Biden seems to agree that we need to try to make it happen. And these upgraded school systems, my friend, you know where I learned that can serve as community kitchens in times of disaster, placing them at the heart of our country's food health, as I said, not treating them like an afterthought. And they should be staffed with trained local food service professionals that they are really proud of their profession because we are giving them the dignity they deserve. And we should be purchasing from local farms, in the process improving the quality of school lunches, and in the process improving the entire economy across surrounding that school, including school lunches that can live up to our own nutritional guidelines. And third, in a country that is now enduring the climate crisis in every region, we rapidly need to adapt the way we respond to feeding our citizens in emergencies. And right now, people, is going to be all of the news after this conference. Not just because it's the right thing to do, the moral thing to do, be next to our citizens, but because of the economic impact of reviving the food economy in the middle of the emergency. When every other business seemed to be closed, restaurants were ready to be there to feed the people in need in the darkest hour. FEMA needs to recognize qualified NGOs for immediate activation and federal reimbursement of food and water distribution. And that should be something is not 100% of the cost for the length of the disaster. This way we don't leave one American behind, and we can start thinking in reconstruction quicker and faster. And we need to grow our national service program, people, like American Corp and Food Corp. And yes, you can clap for them because those are young men and women doing God's work across the nation and the world, representing America in every corner. And those trained women and men can help uplift communities, and I've seen them. We know they do it. Not only in the good times, but also where there are disaster or food shortages. And we should expand our federal partnerships with faith-based organizations to build on the historic work done by local churches or synagogues or mosques or every other community of faith. Our global and domestic economy and politics are increasingly being shaped by food. The war in Ukraine, my friends, is a humanitarian disaster. It's a food disaster because it's going to be hurting grain imports in countries around the world that need that food more than you imagine. One of the most divisive parts of our politics today, both in the US and in Europe, people, is immigration from the global south. These are a lot of reasons why people risk their lives on long journeys led often by criminal gangs. But we know all that food, hunger, moves people. It's no coincidence that the Northern Triangle represents a high proportion of the people that are coming to our southern border. And I know because I've been there. Why? Because its years of crop failures and extreme weather has led to acute food insecurity and malnutrition. So let me be clear, people. There is no wall high enough to stop a mother with a hungry children on her arms. Longer tables is what this conference is, not higher walls for America and abroad. But it's necessary right now for the future of our country and our planet. And it's very popular that we keep concentrating on food and feeding people. You know that new polling data says that 89% of America, I mean, this has to be for President Biden, use music to his ears. 89% of Americans agree, or strongly agree, with this statement, that nobody should go hungry in this country. 89% of Americans, man, America is coming together on food. And on top of that, 61% say that government assistance to address hunger and nutrition should be increased. The American people already believe in the universal right to food. And a clear majority seems wants the public sector to take action. And we know this is not the job, and that's why all of you are here. It's not the job of government alone. It's far from it. We need them, and they need us, we the people. Advancing the food health of our country is the work of all sectors, from large corporations to small nonprofits, from the nation's capital to state, local, and tribal governments. This is the moment to set aside our personal interests and move forward together in everybody's interest. The 1969 conference opened with these words: "The nation cannot live with its conscience if these problems are not solved." So, my friends, I ask you all to see hunger and poor nutrition not just a problem for America to solve, but as an opportunity for America to seize. in the richest nation in the history of mankind. These are solvable problems, and we know it. But we must have the moral courage to solve them. The American people, especially the voiceless, they don't want our pity. They want our respect. Respect means that everybody in America is paid a living wage. Respect means that the people who feed America can afford to feed their own families. In this land of plenty and extraordinary wealth, there is more than enough healthy food for everyone. The truth is that food brings us together across the lines of ideology, geography, race, and culture that too often is dividing us. And this is not a choice between red and blue America, between rural and urban America, between children and seniors, between natural-born and immigrants. Let me remind you all that today is not the end of this effort. It is the beginning. It's the launching pad for your great ideas, for all the great ideas that are going to come from here today. And it's a call for action with real solutions. And it's a reminder that if we are successful today and in the months and years to come, we will not need to wait for a third White House food conference to say we put an end on hunger and nutrition insecurity once and for all, because it means you guys made it happen here, supporting the Biden administration and all of Congress. So I'm asking you here today to join the efforts and leadership of President Biden, Congress, myself, and everybody supporting everybody. People, we need to write new recipes to feed a hungry nation and build longer tables so everybody can eat from the goodness of this American farmland of ours. Thank you for having me, and let's do this.